This production is training session number 2 for the Sea Turtle Research Program. There will be 3 total training sessions and an exam online that you will need to pass in order to participate in the HPA NOAA Sea Turtle Research Program. As you go through this presentation, please be sure to take notes that will help you to answer the questions that are listed on the handout that you've been given about things you need to know. You should also be sure to read through the most commonly asked questions sheet that was passed out to you. You need to know those answers also. So let's begin training session number 2. During this session, we will look at sea turtle biology, ecology, and reproductive biology, particularly referring to the population of green turtles in Hawaii. Sea turtles. Sea turtles are one of the 4 major groups of living reptiles that include the turtles themselves, lizards, crocodilians, and snakes. Turtles probably entered the marine environment some 250 million years ago, but turtles as we know them, that is marine turtles as we know them, probably only came about 120 million years ago. The largest of the sea turtles that ever existed was Archelon ichthyosaurus, which lived approximately 80 million years ago and had a total length of something around 3 to 4 meters and a total flipper width of up to 4.9 meters. It may have weighed as much as 2,000 kilograms. It was huge. As reptiles, all turtles have scales covering their body. They're largely cold-blooded, lay soft-shelled eggs, and breathe with the use of lungs. There are a total of 7 species of sea turtles extant today. 5 of these can be found in the waters around the Hawaiian Islands. They are the green turtle, the hawksbill turtle, the leatherback turtle, the loggerhead turtle, and the olive ridley turtle. Of these 5, only the green and the hawksbill turtle would normally be found in coastal waters around the Hawaiian Islands. The leatherback, the loggerhead, the olive ridley turtle are normally found out in the open ocean in what we call the pelagic zone. The Kemp's ridley turtle is found only in the Atlantic Ocean, and the flatback turtle in Australia, Papua New Guinea, that is the South Pacific Ocean. This next slide shows the distribution of Kemp's ridley turtle. The distribution is mostly on the western Atlantic side, very few animals getting to the eastern Atlantic shown here. The distribution of the flatback turtle is shown in pink on this particular slide. Northern, eastern, and western Australia, and southern Papua New Guinea, and some of the other islands in the South Pacific region. Because it is the most common turtle found in Hawaiian waters, we will concentrate primarily on the honu, or green turtle, scientific name Chelonia mitis. Chelonia mitis comes from the Greek words chelonia, meaning tortoise, and mitis, meaning or referring to wetness. The honu is the largest of the hard-shelled turtles, and it can reach a weight in excess of 400 pounds. In the lower left corner of this slide, you see a green turtle on the left side and a hawksbill turtle on the right side. You can compare the different shape of the head fairly easily, seeing that the hawksbill has a very sharp beak, whereas the green turtle has a more rounded beak. Green turtles are worldwide in distribution and can be found in all the world's oceans except for the Southern and the Arctic Ocean. While their distribution appears to extend quite far north and south, these are seasonal distributions, and the normal distribution throughout the year is usually in the region between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. Nesting areas for green sea turtles are represented by the dots on the map. Hawksbill turtles are also found in the coastal waters around the Hawaiian Islands, although they are extremely rare. Nesting of hawksbill turtles occur on the south shore of the island of Hawaii, as well as along the west shore of the island of Maui. While green turtles are herbivores, the hawksbill turtle joins the other 6 species of sea turtle in being carnivores. They feed primarily on invertebrates such as crabs and shrimp, and unusually, they love sponges. The image you are looking at now is a hawksbill that is resident at Kahaluu Beach Park. It can be seen swimming around amongst the many tourists that are snorkeling in the park area, and I have noted that it does occasionally feed on Echinometra mathii, which is one of the small sea urchins found in the area. This particular slide shows you the worldwide distribution of hawksbills. You might note that the distribution of hawksbills is somewhat different from that of green turtles in that they are not found out in the middle of the major oceans. In our work with sea turtles, it is very important that you understand and are able to name all of the various parts of sea turtles. The diagram you are looking at now shows you the dorsal or top surface of the animal. The dorsal shell is called the carapace. You can note that there are left and right front limbs or flippers, and there are right and left hind flippers. The front flippers are designated as RFL and LFL, and the hind flippers are designated as RH and LH. The scutes referred to earlier are designated as central scutes, those running down the center, lateral scutes, those branching off of the central scutes, and then those on the very edge or marginal scutes. Different species of sea turtles have different numbers of central, lateral, and marginal scutes. The ventral portion of the turtle that's covered in scutes is called the plastron. The plastron is more flexible and will be seen to move in and out as the turtle breathes. The head and flippers of sea turtles are not retractable, and the beak has no teeth and is composed of fingernail-like material, as are the rest of the scales. So now let's take a look at the life cycle of the green turtle in the Hawaiian Islands. Hatchling turtles are about 4 ounces in weight and about 1.5 inches long. When they hatch, they swim out to sea as rapidly as they can and spend the first 3 to 5 years of their life out in the open ocean or the pelagic zone, feeding on zooplankton, that is fish eggs, jellyfish, crabs, shrimp, whatever happens to be out there. This is a fairly high protein diet, so their growth rate is quite high while they're out there in the open or pelagic zone. Juvenile and subadult turtles are found in nearshore waters of the Hawaiian Islands. After coming in from the pelagic zone, they take up an herbivorous existence, feeding on algae and seagrasses. Their size range from juvenile to subadult is 35 centimeters on up to about 85 centimeters. When green turtles reach approximately 85 centimeters in straight carapace length, they can be considered or are becoming mature animals. An adult male green turtle can be recognized by its exceedingly long tail that is used in copulation. On the other hand, female green turtles that are mature are generally much larger, weigh quite a bit more than the adult male turtles. Sexually mature females will migrate to nest every 2 to 5 years. It is a variable nesting cycle. Sometimes they will go in consecutive years, but usually there are a couple of years intervening between nesting migrations. Nesting female turtles will almost invariably migrate back to the beach at which they were hatched. This is called their natal beach. It is interesting to note a couple of the migratory patterns that we find around the world. The one you see right now is green turtles migrating from various regions around Australia, from Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, New Caledonia, northern New Zealand, and southern Australia, up to the Bunker Islands, where hundreds of turtles come every year to lay their eggs and then migrate back to their forage grounds where they came from. This chart shows the migratory patterns of 3 female turtles on their return trip from Rose Atoll in American Samoa. These 3 females nested on Rose Atoll and then traveled back to their forage ground, which was in the Fijian Islands. That migration is a total straight line distance of 1,400 kilometers or 880 miles. The Hawaiian archipelago is some 1,300 miles in length, stretching from Kuri Atoll in the northwest to the island of Hawaii in the southeast. As it turns out, most all of the Hawaiian turtles, or honu, found in the archipelago of Hawaii travel to French Frigate Shoals, which is about the center point of the entire archipelago. This is what French Frigate Shoals looks like from about 30,000 feet up. As you descend closer and closer to French Frigate Shoals, you will see that it is primarily a water area. There is a northwest and southwest fringing reef that protects the atoll from the northeast trade winds, and there are little white patches in the picture there that represent sand islands found at French Frigate Shoals. This diagram highlights or labels the main sand islands that are found at French Frigate Shoals. The two most important islands are East Island and Turn Island. You'll see Turn Island up in the northwest side of the atoll, and East Island about in the middle there. About 90% of all nesting that occurs in the Hawaiian Islands occurs at French Frigate Shoals, and about 80% of all those at French Frigate Shoals go to East Island to nest. Turn Island was once a runway and is about 950 meters long and about 200 meters wide. It was constructed by the military in the early 1900s. East Island, on the other hand, is about 650 meters long at its greatest and about 100 meters wide on average. Its maximum elevation is probably on the order of 4 to 5 feet. Mature male and female turtles travel from all over the Hawaiian Islands to French Frigate Shoals, primarily congregating around East Island. There, males will seek out females, mate, and the females will begin to develop their first clutch of eggs. Females can lay from 1 to 7 clutches of eggs at 2-week intervals, each clutch averaging about 110 eggs. The average number of clutches for a female at East Island is around 3. Eggs will be buried approximately 18 inches underground in the sand and will take approximately 60 days to mature to hatching. The range can be anywhere from 45 to 75 days. An interesting note is that the sex of sea turtles is determined by the temperature of incubation. Higher incubation temperatures will produce females. Lower incubation temperatures will produce males. This picture shows adult female and male turtles basking on the sand at East Island during internesting periods. This slide shows satellite tracks of 19 adult female and male green turtles as they made their way to and or from French Frigate Shoals from their forage grounds in the main Hawaiian Islands. You can note that there is one that traveled to Johnston Atoll, and the rest of them are all from the main Hawaiian Islands, none from the northwestern portion of the island chain. There are obviously some adult turtles that migrate down from the northwestern part of the island chain, but there are relatively few of them. I have produced a video showing the nesting sequence of green turtles on Heron Island on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Please go to the URL shown in the slide and open the YouTube video so that you can watch along as I describe some of the behaviors in the video. This sequence shows the turtles on the beach as they begin to dig their body pit and excavate the egg chamber. It shows them covering up the egg chamber and laying the eggs, about 110 on average, and then covering up the nest and eventually heading back out to the open ocean to spend another 2 weeks developing a whole set of 110 eggs or more to come back and nest a second or a third or a fourth time. Again, the average number of nests at French Frigate Shoals is approximately 3 nests in a nesting season. That is 3 clutches. The eggs will incubate in the nest from anywhere from 45 to 75 days, say 60 days on average, and there is a phenomenon known as synchronous hatching, whereby the vast majority of the eggs all hatch at the same time. It is important for all of the hatchlings to hatch at approximately the same time because they must work together to move the sand, which is above them, down through the ball of wriggling sea turtle hatchlings so that the sand falls through and comes up down below the mass of turtles. As the sand piles up below them, it lifts the mass or ball of wriggling hatchlings up towards the surface. Once they get near the surface, if the temperature is too high and or it is light out, the turtles will cease their movement and become quiescent until the temperature drops and it becomes dark out. This behavior has an adaptive value as it protects the sea turtle hatchlings from predators. Once the hatchlings make their way to the surface of the sand, they will emerge and begin immediately to move towards the ocean. Safety for the hatchlings lies out in the open ocean where they will spend the first 3 to 5 years feeding on zooplankton, anything from fish eggs to jellyfish to crabs and shrimp and things that are floating around in the water out in the open ocean. Hatchlings weigh about 4 ounces and they look like little Oreo cookies with flippers. They are much, much smaller than their massive adult mothers, and you can see this in these two images of a little hatchling on the back of an adult female turtle, and then of course the second one is the hatchling sitting on top of a satellite tag that we put on the adult to track their migration. The hatchlings grow quite quickly as they feed on high-protein food out in the open ocean. Within the first 3 to 5 years, they have gained approximately 35 centimeters in carapace length and will begin to move in towards the shoreline of the main Hawaiian Islands, where they will take up an herbivorous existence, foraging on turf algae and seagrasses. In the main Hawaiian Islands, the growth rate of juvenile and subadult turtles feeding on seagrasses and algae in the shoreline region is quite slow. Current measurements of the growth rate of turtles along the shoreline of West Hawaii, our coastline right here, has shown growth rates of a little less than 1 centimeter per year, which is really about 1/4 as fast as they're found to be growing in other parts of the world. We believe that this low growth rate is a result of the carrying capacity being exceeded by the population of green turtles, i.e., there simply isn't enough food for them to grow quickly. Regardless of how slowly they're growing, green turtles have made a significant comeback since the 1970s, when they were protected by the Endangered Species Act and by state law. This next slide shows the nesting population counts on East Island, which is considered the index beach for the Hawaiian Islands. Each year, a couple of researchers go out to the island and spend approximately 1 month tagging, counting, measuring all of the adult female green turtles that come up to nest on East Island. This graph shows those counts since 1973 up through 2011. As you can see, the general trend for the nesting population is an increase over time. Certainly there are years where there are lots of nesters and years when there are fewer nesters, but in general, the population of nesting green turtles has increased dramatically in the last 40 years. This concludes STRP Training Session 2. In order to participate in the HPA NOAA Sea Turtle Research Program, it is your responsibility to know and understand all aspects of sea turtle biology and ecology as described in this presentation. Please contact me if you have any questions.